How does ADHD affect your relationships? And how can you get better at them? Hi guys, today I want to talk about the effects of ADHD and any implications that come along with inattention and hyperactivity that can affect your relationships. Now, I've experienced a lot of issues in my life when it comes to relationships, and I've been burned because of it. This is coming from a lot of trial and error and practice, self-reflection, and just realizing where I've gone wrong in certain things and how I can improve. There's obviously going to be a lot of challenges if you have an inattention problem and a hyperactivity problem. Depending on the type of ADHD you have, you're likely to be either a bad listener or you're going to be insensitive, or at least come across like you're insensitive when you're not really in reality. Because I know in past relationships I've really messed things up just by being impulsive, reacting emotionally, and not really practicing emotional self-control and thinking logically and thinking about consequences. This is a very big problem because if you can't master how to control yourself and really be objective about your weaknesses and get better, you're always going to struggle. You're always going to keep getting dumped. Like, I've had a lot of problems with being dumped in the past. I haven't had a lot of relationships. I've just always had pretty toxic relationships, and it hasn't really been something that I've meant to do. It's just sort of turned out that way because I wasn't paying enough attention to the bigger picture. So a big part of it is self-reflection and being able to look at yourself and what your weaknesses are. Are you interrupting your partner? Are you doing impulsive things like blurting out impulsive things that could be insensitive? Are you being too honest? Say, like, are you living together and you're impulse buying things and you're not really planning things, and you're not showing up on time, you're not being reliable? Now, this isn't really your fault, but you need to start really learning how to get these things under control, because it will damage your relationship, I can promise you. So don't panic. The first thing you can do is go and get some CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy with a professional, and they can give you tips on how to actually control your symptoms and be just more cognizant. So a big part of learning to overcome this is practicing being conscientious, and also practicing how to be empathetic and think about the consequences of behaving badly. You must always have this idea that you need to practice being a good partner. You can do this through keeping visual reminders, posters, things like that, to remind you to be a good partner and to remind you to be cognizant and conscientious and kind and caring, just to keep you remembering these things. Because if you've got ADHD, you might just forget. I think you're much more likely to become complacent if you have inattentive ADHD. Like, that's been a problem for me, is inattention. And because of that inattention, you're not always able to meet that person's needs because you're not really paying attention to their signals. So you have to be very aware of signals through body language, through their words, tone of voice, actions, things like that. You need to be able to watch out for signs that are good and bad. So it's like a skill, but for someone with ADHD, it's very important to try and practice it on a regular basis. If you want to have a successful relationship, you have to really treat this like a skill that you're training. So that's looking out for things like, are they being withdrawn? Are they being moody? Are they contacting you less? Do they show signs of disinterest? Or are you picking up on signs of interest that you're not really getting, and she might or he might be getting frustrated that you're not picking up on those things? And again, a professional can help you to learn to interpret body language and pick up on cues and signals. If you don't make an effort to really be attentive to your partner, eventually they're going to get fed up with you. Similarly, they're going to get fed up with you if you are too irrational, too impulsive, and you can't control your emotions. You're not being logical and trying to just keep things under control. And things like cohabitation issues. If you're sort of messy and you're leaving things lying around, you need to really overcome this. And one of the ways to do that is to reduce the clutter in your house. Actually get rid of excess items so it's easier for you to keep on top of things. Keep storage boxes, keep lots of little tiny trinkets in boxes, and don't keep loose things lying around. You know, if you really care about your relationship, you will put in the effort, because I think sometimes fear can really get you to be motivated to change yourself and to improve your flaws. But bear in mind, if somebody loves you, there's only so much that they will put up with So you have to make sure that you're trying to overcome these issues and getting better at them. But don't worry about being perfect. The fact is, you need to show that you're making real effort. Your partner might say, "You never listen to me. Why won't you listen to me?" In that situation, you need to realize this is a problem. And if you want to keep your partner happy, you have to try your best to overcome it. So in situations like this, you need to put this on your to-do list. You need to practice every day being attentive, right? Do this before it's too late. You know, you're only human. You are going to make mistakes here and there, especially if you're with someone for years or you're married. It's, you know, at some point you're going to slip up, but just remember that this is an ongoing thing, and that dating, marriage or whatever, it lasts forever. You have to consistently put in effort, otherwise it's going to fall apart and you're going to be scratching your head thinking, what's gone wrong? And it's because you weren't paying enough consistent attention. So it's got to be a lifelong project. You have to commit to this, to being a better partner. Now, I'm a lot better this time. I've just come out of a recent relationship, and it didn't really, I didn't really have any issues with my ADHD with it. They ended for different reasons, but I'm saying that this time I was much better at this relationship I've just had because of all the self-improvement I've done. I worked on my weaknesses from the past, and I applied new techniques, and I was much more conscientious in that relationship, and I did far better. And also a big part of it is patience in dating. I know it can be so frustrating when somebody is keeping you waiting for a reply or things like that, but you know, trust me, it's always better to do less than too much. Promise you that. But there's a fine line. You don't want to do too little. There's a balance between over pursuing and under pursuing. You've just got to get the right balance. And if you find yourself on a date and you interrupt, let them know that this is a problem you have, but that you're working on it. So as I've said before, when it comes to things like reading, if you feel your mind wandering, just be aware, oh, it's happening. So then just bring yourself back. Just keep bringing yourself back. Practice it over and over. So I hope you implement these tips and that you can have a healthy, successful relationship. The more you practice, the better you'll be at it. And just bear in mind, somebody who's right for you and who's worth it will stick by your side as long as you're doing the work on your end.